It's an explosion that nobody saw coming. It only took one comment about charity work for Meghan Markle to be escorted off the set of Watch What Happens Live, leaving Andy Cohen speechless and the studio audience in absolute shock. Let me take you back to that night. The studio lights are hot, the cameras are rolling, and Andy Cohen is sitting in his signature spot behind the bar at the Bravo Clubhouse. He's wearing his best smile, ready to have what he thinks will be a fun, light conversation with his guest. Meghan Markle walks onto the set, and right away, something feels different. There's an energy in the room that doesn't quite sit right. Andy stands up to greet her, extending his hand with genuine warmth. "Welcome, welcome! We are so excited to have you here tonight," he says. His voice is friendly, inviting, exactly what you'd expect from someone who has interviewed thousands of guests. Over the years, Meghan takes her seat, and already her body language is closed off. Arms crossed, a tight smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Andy notices, but he's a professional. He's dealt with difficult guests before. He starts with an easy question, something simple to break the ice. "So, let's just jump right in. You've had quite the journey over the past few years. What's been keeping you busy lately?" Meghan shifts in her seat and lets out a sigh that the microphones pick up perfectly. "Well, Andy, I've been doing actual important work. Real work. Not just sitting around asking people about their drama." The audience goes quiet. You can hear the uncomfortable silence spreading through the room like a wave. Andy's smile falters for just a second, but he recovers quickly. He's been in this business long enough to know how to handle a curveball. "That's great. Tell us about this important work." "Our audience would love to hear about it," he says, keeping his tone light and genuinely interested. Meghan leans back and looks at him like he just asked the most ridiculous question in the world. "I don't know if your audience would understand it, honestly. It's very high-level humanitarian stuff. Very complex." Andy nods slowly, still trying to keep things on track. "Well, try us. I think you'd be surprised. We have a very smart, engaged audience here." "Do you?" Meghan asks, raising one eyebrow. "Because from what I've seen, this show is mostly about people drinking wine and talking about who's fighting with who. Not exactly intellectual content." Now the audience is starting to whisper among themselves. This isn't playful banter. This isn't a guest having fun and being cheeky. This is something else entirely. Andy takes a sip of his drink, clearly buying himself a moment to figure out how to navigate this increasingly awkward situation. "You know what? You're absolutely right that we have fun here. That's kind of the whole point," Andy says with a genuine smile. "But we also have real conversations. We talk about serious topics too. It's all about balance." Meghan waves her hand dismissively. "Balance? Sure. Look, I agreed to come on this show as a favor. I normally don't do this kind of thing. This is beneath my usual platform." The camera catches Andy's face, and for a moment you can see the flash of irritation cross his features before he smooths it back into professional neutrality. "Well, we're grateful you made time for us," he says, and there's just the slightest edge to his voice now. "Are you?" Meghan challenges. "Because I feel like you're not taking this opportunity seriously. You could be using this platform to discuss real issues, but instead you waste time with nonsense." Andy sets his glass down carefully. "Meghan, I've built this show over many years, and our audience loves it. We cover all kinds of topics, serious and light. That's what makes it work." "Your audience," Meghan repeats, shaking her head. "I hate to break it to you, Andy, but most people watching this are just looking for an escape from their sad little lives. They're not here for substance." The audience gasps. Actually gasps. Someone in the front row says, "Oh my God," loud enough for the microphones to catch it. Andy's producer is probably having a heart attack in the control room right about now. Andy leans forward, and his voice is still calm, but there's steel in it now. "I'm going to stop you right there. The people in this audience, the people watching at home. They're not sad. They're not little. They're real people with real lives who deserve respect. Meghan scoffs. Oh, please, don't act like you're some kind of hero for entertaining the masses. You're just another talk show host. And you're just a guest on my show, Andy says, and now the friendly warmth is completely gone. A guest who seems to have forgotten basic manners. Manners? Meghan's voice goes up an octave. You want to talk to me about manners? I've dined with actual royalty. I've sat with world leaders. I've been to events at palaces. And you're going to lecture me about manners? Andy doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't have to. Yes, actually, I am. Because none of that gives you the right to come onto my show and insult me, my team, or the people watching. Meghan stands up suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor. I don't have to sit here and listen to this. You're right. You don't, Andy says calmly. But you came here? You agreed to do this interview. The least you could do is be respectful. Respectful? Meghan laughs, but there's no humor in it. You want respect? Then maybe you should have a show worth respecting. Maybe you should do something that actually matters instead of this tabloid trash. The audience is completely silent now. Everyone is watching this unfold like they're witnessing a car crash in slow motion. Andy stands up too, and he looks directly at Meghan. You know what? I think we're done here, he says quietly. Excuse me? Meghan snaps. I said we're done. This interview is over, Andy repeats, his voice firm but controlled. Meghan's face turns red. You can't just end this. I'm the guest. I decide when I'm done talking. Andy shakes his head. No, actually, this is my show. My set. And I'm telling you that this interview is finished. This is unbelievable, Meghan says, her voice getting louder. Do you know who I am? Do you have any idea who you're speaking to? I know exactly who you are, Andy says calmly. You're someone who came onto my show and has spent the last several minutes being rude and condescending to everyone here. And I'm not going to let that continue. Meghan points her finger at him. You're making a huge mistake. When people hear about this, when they hear how you treated me, you're going to regret this. Andy doesn't flinch. The cameras have been rolling this whole time. People will see exactly what happened here. They'll see how you spoke to me and how you spoke about our audience. I'm comfortable with that. I came here to do you a favor, Meghan insists, her voice shaking now with anger. I could have been anywhere tonight. Anywhere. And I chose to come here, to your little cable show, and this is how you treat me? You didn't do me a favor, Andy says, and his voice is sad now, not angry. You came here, and you were disrespectful from the moment you sat down. I tried to have a nice conversation with you. I really did, but you made that impossible. Meghan grabs her purse from beside the chair. I'm leaving. I think that's best, Andy agrees. You haven't heard the last of this, Meghan threatens as she starts to walk off the set. Andy calls after her, I'm sure I haven't. Meghan spins around one more time. My lawyers will be in touch. You can't just kick someone off your show like this. Andy's response is simple and calm. I just did. But Meghan isn't done yet. She stops in. Her tracks and turns back around, her face flushed with anger. You know what your problem is, Andy. You're threatened by people who are actually important. You spend your days talking to reality stars and washed-up celebrities, and when someone with real substance comes on your show, you can't handle it. Andy takes a deep breath. The cameras are still rolling, capturing every second of this train wreck. Meghan, I've interviewed presidents. I've interviewed Nobel Prize winners. I've interviewed some of the most accomplished people in the world, and somehow none of them felt the need to tell me how important they were every 5 seconds. That's because they weren't as important as me, Meghan shoots back. The audience actually gasps again. Someone starts to laugh but quickly stops, realizing this isn't funny anymore. It's just uncomfortable. Andy shakes his head slowly. Do you hear yourself right now? Do you hear what you're saying? I hear myself perfectly, Meghan says. I'm saying things that need to be said. Someone needs to tell you that this show is garbage, that what you do doesn't matter, that you're wasting everyone's time. Andy's jaw tightens. Get out. What? Meghan looks genuinely shocked. I said get out. Leave my studio. Now. Andy's voice is quiet, but there's an unmistakable authority in it. Meghan laughs again, that same humorless sound. You can't make me leave. Andy looks at her for a long moment, and when he speaks, his voice is measured and calm. You know what the saddest part of all this is? I was actually excited to have you on the show. I thought we could have a great conversation. I thought you'd have interesting things to say. I do have interesting things to say, Meghan interjects. You just don't want to hear them. No, Andy says firmly. You have mean things to say. You have condescending things to say. You have insulting things to say. But nothing you've said tonight has been interesting. It's just been hurtful. Meghan's mouth drops open. Hurtful? Are you seriously playing the victim right now? I'm not playing anything, Andy says. I'm just being honest, which is something you claim to value. Honestly, you've been terrible tonight. You've been rude to me, rude to my staff, rude to the audience, and I'm not going to stand here and let it continue. So what are you going to do about it? Meghan challenges, her chin lifted defiantly. Andy turns to someone off camera. Can we get security, please? Security? Meghan's voice goes shrill. You're calling security on me? This is insane. This is absolutely insane. What's insane is that you thought you could come on my show and act like this, Andy says. What's insane is that you think being rude and condescending is the same thing as being important. Meghan takes a step closer to the bar, her finger pointing at Andy. You have no idea what it's like to be me. You have no idea what I deal with every single day. The pressure, the scrutiny, the constant judgment. Andy's expression softens just slightly. You're right. I don't know what that's like. But that doesn't excuse how you're treating people right now. Everyone has struggles, Meghan. Everyone has pressure. That doesn't give anyone the right to be cruel. Cruel? Meghan practically spits the word. I'm not being cruel. I'm being real. I'm being authentic. Maybe you're just not used to authentic people. I meet authentic people all the time, Andy counters. Authentic doesn't mean rude. Authentic doesn't mean making everyone around you feel terrible. Being real and being mean are not the same thing. Meghan's eyes narrow. You're twisting everything I say. You're making me out to be some kind of villain when all I did was refuse to play your little game. What game? Andy asks, genuinely confused. I asked you simple questions. I tried to have a normal conversation. You're the one who came in hostile. I wasn't hostile, Meghan insists. I was just honest about what I think of this show. And apparently you can't handle criticism. Andy lets out a long breath. There's criticism, and then there's what you did. Criticism would be saying you think the show could cover different topics. What you did was call it garbage and say it doesn't matter. That's not criticism. That's just being nasty. A security guard appears at the edge of the set, looking uncomfortable but ready to do his job. Meghan sees him, and her eyes go wide. You're actually serious. You're actually going to have me escorted out. You had every chance to be civil, Andy says. Every chance to have a normal conversation. But you chose this. You chose to be hostile and dismissive. So yes, I'm serious. Meghan looks at the security guard, then back at Andy, then at the audience. You can see her trying to decide what to do next. Does she leave on her own? Does she make the security guard actually escort her? The silence stretches out for what feels like forever. Finally, Meghan speaks, and her voice is ice cold. Fine, I'll leave, but everyone is going to know about this. Everyone is going to know how Andy Cohen treats his guests. Good, Andy says simply. Let them know. The footage speaks for itself. Meghan takes a step toward the exit, then stops and turns back one more time. You know what? I actually feel sorry for you. This is your life. This is what you've built. A show where you sit and gossip and pretend it matters. That's sad, Andy. That's really, really sad. Andy doesn't take the bait. The exit is that way. I've sat with queens, Meghan continues, ignoring him. Real queens. I've had tea at palaces. I've been to events that you couldn't even dream of attending. And you think you can dismiss me? You think you're better than me? I never said I was better than you, Andy responds calmly. But I am asking you to leave my show. And if you don't, security is going to help you find the door. Meghan throws her hands up in exasperation. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You can't handle anyone who challenges you. You want everyone to just sit here and stroke your ego. Andy shakes his head firmly. That's not what this is about. You didn't challenge me, Meghan. You insulted me. You insulted my staff. You insulted the people watching. There's a difference between challenging someone and being flat out rude. Rude? Meghan repeats incredulously. I'm being honest. Maybe you're just not used to people being honest with you. Maybe everyone just tells you what you want to hear. Or maybe, Andy says, his voice steady, you're confusing honesty with cruelty. You can be honest without being mean. You can share your opinion without putting other people down. Meghan crosses her arms again. I don't put people down. I speak truth. If people can't handle the truth, that's their problem, not mine. Andy leans against the bar, looking at her with something that almost resembles pity. You know what's interesting? You keep talking about how important you are, how much more meaningful your work is than mine. But truly important people don't need to constantly remind everyone how important they are. Oh, so now you're a philosopher, Meghan snaps. No, I'm just someone who's met a lot of important people, Andy says. And the ones who actually do important work, the ones who really make a difference, they're usually humble about it. They don't walk around telling everyone how much better they are. Meghan's face flushes deeper. You don't know anything about me or my work. You're right, I don't, Andy admits. Because you haven't told me anything about your work. You've been too busy telling me how unimportant my work is. The audience murmurs in agreement, and Meghan's eyes flash toward them. Of course they're on your side. They're your audience. They're here to worship you. They're here to have fun, Andy corrects her. They're here to enjoy themselves. And you're ruining that for them. Meghan scoffs loudly. I'm ruining their fun? How tragic. I'm so sorry I interrupted their mindless entertainment with a little reality. There it is again, Andy says, pointing at her. That condescension. That need to make everyone else feel small so you can feel big. I don't need to make myself feel big, Meghan protests. I am big. I've accomplished more than most people dream of. Andy nods slowly. I'm sure you have. And that's great. Truly. But your accomplishments don't give you permission to treat people badly. I'm not treating anyone badly. Meghan's voice rises sharply. Andy gestures around the studio. Meghan, everyone here can see what's happening. Everyone watching at home can see it too. You're being hostile and dismissive and insulting. That's treating people badly. Meghan stands there, her chest heaving, clearly furious, but seemingly at a loss for words. The audience is completely silent, watching this unfold with rapt attention. Meghan looks at the security guard again. He takes a small step forward, and that seems to make her decision for her. This isn't over, she says, pointing at Andy again. Yes, it is, Andy says firmly. It's very much over. Meghan makes one final dramatic gesture, throwing her hair over her shoulder and straightening her spine. You're going to regret this, Andy Cohen. Mark my words. The only thing I regret Andy says, and his voice is tired now, is that we wasted everyone's time with this. Our audience deserved better. Our viewers deserved better. And honestly, I deserved better. Meghan opens her mouth to respond, but the security guard gently touches her elbow, indicating that it's really time to go. She jerks her arm away from him. "Don't touch me," she snaps at the guard. "Ma'am, I need you to leave the premises," the guard says politely, but firmly. Meghan glares at him, then at Andy, then at the audience. "You're all witnesses to this. You all saw what happened here." "We sure did," someone from the audience calls out, and a few people laugh nervously. Meghan's face gets even redder. "Laugh all you want. You're all just as pathetic as he is." That's the moment Andy's patience finally runs out completely. "Okay, we're done. Get her out of here." The security guard steps forward more purposefully now, and Meghan realizes she's out of options. She turns on her heel and starts walking toward the exit, but she keeps talking over her shoulder. "This is assault. This is harassment. I came here in good faith, and this is how I'm treated." Andy doesn't respond. He just stands there, watching her go, his face unreadable. Meghan reaches the edge of the set and turns back one final time. "My people will be calling your people. This isn't finished, Andy. Not by a long shot." "Have a good night, Meghan," Andy says, and there's a finality to his words that makes it clear he's completely done with this entire situation. Meghan stares at him for a long moment, and you can see her trying to think of one last devastating thing to say, one last way to get the upper hand. But nothing comes. So instead, she just makes a disgusted sound and storms off the set. The second she's gone, the entire studio seems to exhale. The audience starts murmuring among themselves, looking at each other with wide eyes and shocked expressions. Andy stands there for a moment, just processing what just happened. Then he turns to the camera with a look of complete disbelief. "Well," he says, and you can hear the exhaustion in his voice. That was something. The audience erupts into applause. They're clapping for Andy, supporting him, showing him that they saw what happened, and they're on his side. He gives them a small, grateful smile. "I want to apologize to all of you," Andy says, gesturing to the audience and the cameras. "You came here tonight expecting a fun show, and instead, you got that. I'm sorry. That's not what we're about." "Don't apologize!" someone shouts from the audience, and others echo the sentiment. Andy holds up his hand. "No, I mean it. You all deserve better. This is supposed to be a place where we have fun, and what just happened was the opposite of that." The audience applauds again, and Andy looks genuinely touched by their support. "I've been doing this show for a long time," he continues, "and I've had all kinds of guests, but they're usually all respectful. What you just witnessed was beyond anything I've experienced before." Someone from the audience shouts, "We love you, Andy," and he laughs, a real laugh this time. "I love you guys too," he says, "and I promise, the rest of the show is going to be better. We're going to move past this and have the fun night we all wanted." The audience cheers, and Andy takes a long sip of his drink, shaking his head in amazement at what just transpired. "I mean, did that really just happen?" he asks the audience, and they all laugh and nod. "Okay, as long as we're all on the same page that was completely wild." He sits back down behind the bar, and you can see him trying to shift gears, trying to get back into hosting mode, but there's still a look of shock on his face. "You know what?" Andy says after a moment. "I think we all need a drink after that. Can we get drinks for the audience?" The crowd cheers again, and the tension in the room finally starts to ease. Andy is doing what he does best, taking a difficult situation and finding a way to make it work, to make people feel comfortable again. "I have to say," Andy continues, "in all my years of doing this show, I never thought I'd have to have someone escorted off the set. That was a first for me." The audience laughs, and Andy grins. "And hopefully a last." He looks directly into the camera, speaking to the viewers at home. If you're just joining us, you have some catching up to do. That was the most dramatic exit we've ever had on this show. The audience roars with laughter, and Andy seems to be finding his footing again. But you know what? That's okay. We're going to keep going. We're going to have a great rest of the show, because that's what we do here. We have fun no matter what. The audience gives him a standing ovation, and Andy looks genuinely moved by their support. He stands up and bows slightly, thanking them. "You guys are the best," he says sincerely. Seriously. The absolute best. As he sits back down, you can see him take a deep breath, letting go of the tension from the confrontation. "All right," he says, clapping his hands together. "Let's turn this night around." The audience screams their approval, and just like that, Andy has transformed the energy in the room. The dramatic exit is already becoming a moment that will be talked about for years to come. "I think we all learned something tonight," Andy says. "You never really know what's going to happen